Kevin Delaney here. I want to talk to you today about support groups. And I want to just say a few words about support groups. I've had some dealings, you might say, over the years with various support groups, particularly online groups related to people who have certain fears. This is something that I work with people to help them overcome their fears, and as a result, I'm very interested to hear what people have to say who are in the grip of phobias and whatnot. And a good example would be there's an online support group. It's on Facebook for people with a fear of flying. In fact, there's a couple of these. I know one of them is, I think it's called Fearful Flyers. Now, right off the bat, you have problems here. Fearful Flyers, this is the name of the group. So if you join the group, you are in effect identifying yourself as a fearful flyer. You're identifying yourself as someone who has a fear of flying. And this is the first problem that I have with a lot of these support groups, is that they end up becoming losers clubs. You got to be very, very careful. If a person is there to get information and get help to overcome their fear, fine, there's nothing wrong with it. It can be very good. Unfortunately, these groups end up being very self-reinforcing, self-perpetuating in a lot of the cases, and they take for granted, in effect, the idea that you can't overcome your fear. That's why you need the group. That's why you need the support group. You need the support of other people who also have this fear, so it becomes like this community of fear. We have something all in common. Namely, we're all afraid. We're all afraid of something. We're afraid to fly. We're afraid to get on airplanes. And oftentimes, if you look at these groups, you'll see people will post, in some cases, weeks or even months before they have to fly. They're talking about how terrified they are and how they've had sleepless nights and they've had nightmares and they've had panic attacks. And everybody else is saying to them, you can do this. I know you can. It's going to go well. It's going to go okay. You got this. That's one of their favorite things to say. You got this. Well, no, they don't. They're terrified. They're panicked. And very often they do get on the plane and then they report, the terror that they felt when they were on the plane. But then once they got going, it wasn't too bad. And, finally they did do it. And then everybody praises them and says, that's great. I knew you could do it. But of course, that doesn't take the fear away. They still have the fear, and they will continue to have the fear on every subsequent flight, more or less. And as a result, again, it creates this kind of group that is united by a certain experience, the experience of fear. I remember years ago, I used to listen to Dr. Laura when I would drive. She had an AM radio show. And most of the callers were women. This was a rare man who called in. And he was talking about, I think he was divorced, and he started dating a woman who was divorced. And he, for whatever reason, he was looking for Dr. Laura's advice. And he said at one point, in response to Dr. Laura's question of, well, why do you like her? Or what do you see in her? Or what do you have in common? And he said, well, we have a lot in common. Oh, like what? And he said, well, we both come from abusive backgrounds. And Dr. Laura said, that is not something positive to have in common with another person. That's not a reason why you should be in a relationship with a person. The fact that both of you suffered abuse in your background. You want to be with somebody because you have positive things in common with them, not negative things like that. That should not unite people. Tragedy like that, very unfortunate circumstances, which of course you didn't choose. It was imposed upon you. It's not to say, again, that you can't benefit from talking with other people who have been through that experience, but you want to be very careful about creating this group identity, this community, which in effect, the uniting factor is something negative like that. We all suffered abuse, or we all experience anxiety, we experience depression, we experience fear or whatnot. Again, I'm not knocking the existence of a group like that, but you want to be very careful that it doesn't become, like I said, a kind of a losers club or a victims club, where everybody is kind of has this identity of, we are victims here, we are deficient in some way, we're different. We're different from all those other people. All those other people that can get on planes with no problem, that's not us. We have terrible problems getting on planes, and therefore we have to pat each other on the back, and we have to tell each other, you can do this, you got this, and whatnot. But again, where's the solution? Where's the light at the end of the tunnel here? Is this just the way it's going to be? And I guarantee you a lot of people get into these groups thinking, I'm looking for help, I'm looking for answers, I want to solve this problem, I want to move beyond this, I want to correct this issue in me. And before too long, they're just in the group, and it just perpetuates and perpetuates and perpetuates. And they maybe are now offering this support to other people and saying, you got this and you can do it, I know you can. And just by the way too, there's something oftentimes not very adult about the whole atmosphere of a lot of these groups. It's almost like they're talking to children. Adults, if they have a problem, want to solve the problem. And that's oftentimes what people, again, that's what they initially come to a group like this for. But there's almost like this childish, again, patting you on the head and patting you on the back and saying, it's going to be okay. It's almost like a parental reassurance or something. And again, maybe for a young child who's scared of the dark or something, the parent patting their hand or something might be comforting and reassuring. But adults need answers. We need answers. We need solutions. And my concern is that a lot of these support groups, especially, again, support groups for anxiety, for depression, for all kinds of things like that, they don't really offer real help. They offer support, but no real long-term solutions. So those are just a few thoughts that I have. You tell me what you think. Let me know, and I will talk to you later.